Commanders fans, welcome back. And before we dive into today's exclusive, let me set the tone the right way. The Washington Commanders are still searching for ways to improve, even in the middle of a disappointing season. This organization knows that standing still is not an option, and every move from here on out is about building toward better results in the future. So if you appreciate honest Commanders coverage, insider perspective, and real conversation with the fan base, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It helps the channel grow and tells me you want more content like this. Commanders fans, if you want the official Washington Commanders store, the link is in the description and in the comment. Tons of new gear available. Now, let's get into a story that says a lot about where this franchise is and where it might be headed. As the 2025 season winds down, one thing is becoming increasingly clear around the league. Dan Quinn is likely staying, but his defensive staff is not. According to reports from NFL Network insiders Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, the Washington Commanders are expected to move on from defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. once the season ends. And if you've been watching this defense every week, that probably doesn't surprise you. Joe Witt came to Washington alongside Quinn from Dallas, carrying familiarity and trust. But trust only lasts so long when results don't follow. And in 2025, the results simply haven't been there. The writing has been on the wall for a while now. Midway through the season, Dan Quinn made a telling move. He pulled play-calling duties away from Joe Witt. That doesn't happen lightly. When a head coach takes that step, it usually signals a deeper issue and often foreshadows a change. The numbers back it up. Last season, during Washington's surprising run to the NFC Championship game, the defense was far from elite, but serviceable. They ranked 18th in scoring defense, 13th in yards allowed, and 17th in EPA per play. Not dominant, but good enough when paired with an explosive offense. This year, a different story entirely. By early November, when Quinn took over play-calling duties, the Commanders ranked 29th in scoring defense and 30th in total yards allowed. 6 weeks later, those numbers barely moved. The defense currently sits 26th in scoring and 31st in yardage. That's not just regression, that's collapse. To be fair, Joe Witt didn't inherit an ideal situation. Washington struggled to replace Montez Sweat, and the much-discussed Marshawn Lattimore trade failed to fix the secondary. Age across the roster also became a real problem, especially on defense, where speed and consistency matter most. But in the NFL, explanations don't save jobs, results do. Witt, now 47, has been closely tied to Quinn for years, working under him in Dallas from 2021 to 2023 and previously on Quinn's final Falcons staff in 2020. He even drew head coaching interest this past offseason, including a wide-ranging interview process with the New York Jets. Now, however, his future looks very different. A step back down the coaching ladder in 2026 feels increasingly likely. Despite the frustration, Dan Quinn is expected to return in 2026, and that decision is rooted in context. Washington's surprise surge to the NFC title game in 2024 bought Quinn credibility. Owner Josh Harris still believes in him, according to league sources, and general manager Adam Peters understands the value of stability after years of chaos. Let's also remember, Quinn was not the Washington Commanders' first choice. Washington aggressively pursued Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson last offseason, just like the Panthers before them and the Raiders after them. Johnson turned them down, leading to the Quinn hire. That matters. It creates a different evaluation curve. Firing Quinn now, after one strong year and one disastrous one, would feel impulsive, even if his seat will undoubtedly be warm entering 2026. Another subplot to watch is offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. After Jaden Daniels' Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign, Kingsbury was a popular head coaching candidate. Multiple teams had them on their radar, but he chose to stay put, believing in Quinn and Daniels. That decision hasn't aged perfectly. Daniels' second season was derailed by injuries, and Kingsbury's stock has cooled. That likely keeps Washington's staff intact heading into 2026, a quiet win for Quinn, who will get another shot with a healthy quarterback. But make no mistake, 2026 will be the season that defines everything. Quinn, Kingsbury, Daniels, all of it. If you needed a snapshot of this season's frustration, you got it Sunday, against the Eagles. Washington didn't show much fight on the scoreboard in the second half, but emotions finally erupted late in the fourth quarter. After Philadelphia converted a 2-point attempt to stretch the lead to 29-10, what should have been a routine sequence turned into chaos. Players from both sides got tangled up, and suddenly a full-blown brawl broke out on the field. Officials rushed in, tempers flared, the game completely lost control. When the dust settled, 3 players were ejected: Eagles lineman Tyler Steen and Commanders defenders Javon Kinlaw and Quan Martin. Given how many players were involved, it's almost surprised more weren't tossed. One notable name who stayed in the game despite being right in the middle of it, Mike Seinstrill. The fight overshadowed everything. Not adjustments, not missed tackles, not blown coverages, just frustration. And after the game, Dan Quinn didn't exactly pour water on the fire. When asked about the brawl, Dan Quinn delivered a line that instantly grabbed attention. "If that's how they want to get down, all good. We play them again in 2 weeks." That's rivalry. That's edge. But it's also risky, because now the NFL will step in. The league office is almost certain to review the incident closely. Fines feel inevitable, and suspensions are very much on the table, depending on what shows up on film. For a roster already stretched thin, losing contributors would be another blow, one this team simply can't afford. And in the end, the fight changed nothing. The Eagles dominated the second half and walked away with the win. Washington was left with another loss and another ugly moment that perfectly captured the season. When the Washington Commanders acquired Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers last offseason, the vision was clear. This was supposed to be a bounce-back year for one of the most versatile playmakers in football. Washington handed Deebo a 1-year prove-it deal worth $20 million, with $17 million guaranteed, betting that a fresh scenery, a fresh offense, and a dynamic young quarterback could unlock the best version of him again. On paper, it made sense. Jaden Daniels brought excitement and creativity. Cliff Kingsbury promised an offense built on space and mismatches, and Deebo had incentives baked into his contract that made a big season financially rewarding. Fast forward to now, with the Commanders sitting at 4-15 and just 2 games left, and the reality has been far less explosive. Statistically, Deebo Samuel's first season in Washington has been underwhelming. Through 14 games, Deebo has recorded 68 receptions, 639 yards receiving, 5 receiving touchdowns, 9.4 yards per catch. To put that into perspective, during his All-Pro 2021 season in San Francisco, Deebo averaged 18.2 yards per reception. That was the version of Deebo that scared defensive coordinators and tilted coverages. This season, that version has rarely shown up. Deebo hasn't topped 100 receiving yards in a single game all year. His trademark yards after catch dominance, the thing that made him special, has largely disappeared. Too many catches have ended immediately. Too many plays have lacked explosion. And yet, despite all of that, Deebo Samuel is still very much in play for his significant payday. Here's where things get interesting. According to SpotTrack, Deebo Samuel has up to $700,000 in incentives still on the table with 2 games remaining, and surprisingly, all of them are still attainable. Here's exactly what Deebo needs: 2 more receptions to unlock $200,000, 61 more receiving yards to unlock $250,000, 2 more receiving touchdowns to unlock $250,000. That's it. In theory, for a player of Deebo's caliber, those numbers should be very manageable. In one strong game, he could check off all 3 incentives. But theory and reality haven't aligned much this season. That's why Deebo's quiet performance against the Eagles hurt more than usual. In Washington's 29-18 loss, Deebo caught 3 passes for 35 yards. Not only did the Commanders lose, but the offense struggled to generate anything through the air. That outing marked the 7th time in Deebo's last 9 games where he finished with fewer than 45 receiving yards. At this stage of the season, every missed opportunity matters, especially when real money is on the line. Now, everything comes down to the final 2 games on Washington's schedule: a home matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, a second meeting with the Philadelphia Eagles, this time in Philadelphia. For Deebo Samuel, these games serve a dual purpose:
On one hand, they're his final audition before unrestricted free agency. Every catch, every touchdown, every flash matters when teams around the league evaluate whether he still has game-changing juice. On the other hand, they represent a very realistic path to an extra $700,000. That's not pocket change. That's motivation. If Deebo's going to cash in, the Cowboys game feels like the best opportunity. Dallas currently boasts one of the worst defenses in the league, and just like Washington, they are out of the playoff picture. There's little incentive for them to empty the tank or play ultra-conservative coverage. This is the type of matchup where Deebo should be able to win one-on-one, get manufactured touches, and finally create after the catch. If he can't make noise against this defense, serious questions will follow him into free agency. The second Eagles game also presents an interesting possibility. Philadelphia may choose to rest starters depending on their playoff positioning. If that happens, Washington could face a more relaxed defensive unit, opening the door for offensive production. That scenario could be exactly what Deebo needs: space, opportunity, and fewer elite defenders in his face. At this point, it's fair to say Deebo Samuel's season in Washington hasn't lived up to expectations. The explosiveness hasn't been there, the numbers are modest, and the Commanders' record speaks for itself. But football is also a business, and even in a down year, Deebo is positioned to salvage a meaningful financial win if he can close strong. 2 catches, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those are the margins that could define how this season is remembered for him. So here's where things stand, Commanders fans. Dan Quinn is likely staying, Joe Witt is likely gone, major defensive changes are coming, and frustration is clearly boiling over on the field. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with keeping Dan Quinn for another year? Is moving on from Joe Witt enough, or does this defense need a full reset? And how do you feel about the brawl? Unacceptable, or a sign this team still cares? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you made it to the end, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any Commanders news as this critical offseason approaches. Alright, Commanders fans, that's today's update, and if you want to rep Washington with official gear, hit the link in the description and check out the new releases, because the next few months will define the future of this franchise. Hail to the Commanders.